Hi there, it's Jamie Warner, CEO of Invarosoft, and welcome to today's training video about our vCIO platform. In today's training, you are going to be taken through the entire platform, and we will be focusing on the audit, presentation, sales strategy surrounding the vCIO approach that you have available to you, and of course, the setup of the system. So let's get stuck in. All right, so this is the Invarosoft portal, and we can get started by having a look at the vCIO section of the portal, which is the top right here. So as part of our vCIO platform, you have available to you the ability to do an audit and a presentation of those findings to your customers. So let's focus on the audit section first as an overview. So with our audits, if we select in here, you have the ability to essentially create audits per client based on the types that you are auditing. So we call them types, but they're essentially the things that you are auditing in your client's environment. So there's a list of examples there. In the system, I'll show you in a sec where you can configure those. So once you've actually confirmed your types, you can then actually proceed to do an audit for your customer. Now this serves as a central repository for the status of each one of your clients' network environments. So you come through, you create your audit template, you then say, right, I would like to do an audit, and you then create an audit from the template and proceed to actually change the status of these items from to green, yellow, red to indicate whether or not they're okay, whether something has to be done in the future, or whether there's an urgent requirement to fix something. So you come in here and you select the pencil icon, you put the dates in, which flow through to our roadmap functionality, you put your commentary in, and essentially this is a separate function of our system where you can keep an up-to-date record of the status of each client at any point in time. If an engineer was doing a spot check, for example, they might come in here and go, well, this item here has actually gone to red, the internet needs to be upgraded. I'm going to log a ticket against that, and you can have that ticket come straight through to the PSA to remind you to do something about that particular issue. So once you've actually completed an audit, then you're able to do a presentation. And this is where you come through to your client portal, which you access via the app. They can go through the client portal that way. And you can select a vCIO option in the client portal so they can see that. You don't have to do that. And in fact, you could have a menu in the portal cut down for standard users and a different menu for your main contacts, which includes this vCIO functionality. So now you have the ability inside your client portal, which is where we differ from the rest of the vCIO tools, which essentially are just PDFs and Word documents. Now you've got the ability to present that nicely inside that one pane of glass for your customer. So you can therefore do an overview of where you are today. So this methodology has been taken from my MSP, and we've molded it based on obviously what the market wanted us to do, and it is a hybrid between what you would probably do in a Word document / PowerPoint presentation and indeed something that we can then put together in that shape inside a portal. So you've got your overview section, which you completely customize, and you can templatize that as part of a presentation template, so you don't have to keep writing it again. But the whole idea, and this is what you would normally do in a Word document, you have an overview page to just start the conversation. Right, we're here today to talk about this. Is there anything else you'd like to find out or issues you'd like to raise before we get started? It's just a great icebreaker and opener to a presentation. Once you've gone through that, you then get stuck into your audit. So this is where the information that you'd put in the audit then gets displayed in a green, yellow, red fashion in that order. And you can go through and explain your findings to demonstrate your technical acumen about your audit for that customer. So you've got all the comments there that you can go through. The whole idea is that you don't actually need to write an essay about each one. We've found over the time doing this that most customers never read anything that you write. They tend to just flick to the pricing page. So having something neat, tidy, simple to go through with a customer is excellent, and using a traffic light system, which is pretty standard these days for vCIO tools, is the best way to do it, because customers are not going to remember the 20 to 25 things that you've gone through, but they will remember color, and it's a great opportunity to make the point that you're trying to make very clear, and they'll walk away from that remembering probably the red, then maybe the yellow, and the fact that there was a few green things. So you go through and you present your findings to the customer. You can edit this commentary as a separate entity in our database when you're doing a presentation. So if something's been written incorrectly in the audit, then you can change that. And then you can facilitate this audit discussion with the Microsoft licensing report. Could be a devices report here, and you can actually put in custom pages as well with our HTML pages. And these are all designed to facilitate the audit discussion. One of the things that we're actually working on is the Microsoft Secure Score. So that'll be something that you'll be able to put in this report as well, and you'll also be able to put it in here in the client portal. So we'll keep working on more and more information to put into this particular report, but at the moment it does a wonderful job of being able to present your findings. So once you've gone through your findings, this is where we divert from a lot of the other tools in the market. So essentially what's going on with every other tool is that they're using this one option budget approach. And if we were to do that, we would have just created a column here saying budget and just gone, oh, the files and folders project to go to Office 365, that's $5,000, firewall, $1,500, internet, $300 a month, and all the way through the client's listening, arms crossed, basically trying to understand what you're talking about. So you get to the end of that presentation and the customer says, great, well, thank you so much for going through that with me. You've given me an idea of budget. What's the next step? And what most MSPs are doing is then just saying, oh, don't worry, I'll go and do a quote. So you go and do a quote. You then have to book another meeting with that client. The client may or may not want to turn up to that meeting because they know you're going to hit them up for a quote. When you do get them in a meeting, it's just one option. You may have presented something that was $20,000. The customer, because it's just the one option, all they can do is say yes, no, or go dark. So often clients will go, I don't know, let me have a think about it, and then you end up chasing them to get them to do something. So essentially it's elongating and slowing down the sales cycle because it's not really being presented to them in a way that they're used to buying things. So to solve that problem, we built this good, better, best methodology so that you can actually present options to the customer. So here you've got the opportunity to present, say, $10,000, $25,000, or $40,000 to the customer. The whole idea is to ensure that you're not playing your hand on price and you're catering to the three buying personas, your budget conscious, middle of the road, and your premium buyer. Now, we all know there's not many premium buyers in SMB land, but the whole idea in the buying psychology of this good, better, best methodology is to contextualize the other two prices, and this is what they call an anchor price. So having 40K there instantly makes that 25 grand you normally would have turned up with a quote look more affordable. In the buyer's mind, they're sitting there thinking, oh, I don't want to do $40,000. So by not selecting $40,000, they've saved about $15,000 just by not selecting it. So this is the methodology that we use, and it's worked absolute wonders to be able to present to customers. You can have a network diagram for each of the solutions. That's designed just to give them a visual of what you're actually talking about. We would typically put the minimum requirements in here, so the things that is the very least they need to do to solve the red issues that are bleeding, and then we'd go through it with them. So the whole idea of this system here is that it's actually going to be adding up the price for them as you go and putting what they've selected down the right hand side. So let's use the example of how this works really nicely compared to just one option approach as it relates to these two servers. So let's say these two servers, this one's just out of warranty and this one is actually is 7 years old, so it needs to be replaced. So in this particular situation, you can say to the client, look, if you're going to be growing really, really fast and doubling in size, we recommend this server to replace the one you have, which is 10,000, and potentially this one that's 22. If that's too expensive, potentially we could do this if you're not going to be growing as fast, the 8-gram one to reduce it, and if 26 still isn't in your budget, then we can on this particular one put an extended warranty and then circle back to that in say 6 to 12 months. That just means if anything happens to that server, then it'll be covered for any hardware that fails. So what would you like to do? We recommend that you buy and upgrade the new service for a 3 to 5 year solution, but you do have that option to do that. So what would you like to do? And you can see by having that conversation with the customer, they hook their arms, they lean in, they rub their chin, they start being part of the buying journey with you. And it's this concept of someone buying from you rather than being sold to. When you give someone options, it's very aligned to how the whole world pretty much functions and how all buyers are conditioned. If you go to a supermarket and buy toilet paper, milk, fruit, butter, it doesn't matter what it is, could be shoes, could be petrol, they're all good, better, best. So buyers are conditioned to have options, and when you give someone options, they then can start to match the budget with what they want to do, and that is why we've always called it solution builder. So when you get to the end of this section, now you've actually got that buyer way closer to making a buying decision, and so you would say to them, look, my next steps to do a quote. Is there anything standing in the way of going ahead? And so often they'll just say, look, just fix those couple of things, but send me through the quote. Now when you send them through the quote, you're sending the quote for sign off, not to have a complicated discussion like this with a quote that really only gives them one option. And that is the power of this, is to try and get buyers to make buying decisions faster, at least sell them the things that you need to sell them. And the best way to do that is to contextualize it with a whole lot of other stuff that they may not need. If you just go to them and say, oh, I think you need these couple of security requirements, it's kind of yes or no. Whereas if you say, well, you need these 8 things, but the very minimum of these 2 security requirements, there's a better chance they'll say, all right, just do the 2, and in their mind they haven't done the other 6. That is how you get buyers to make buying decisions. So once you've done that, you can then present the roadmap and show that to the customer, so that it's basically a plan of what you've got coming up for their environment. And it's not supposed to be Monday.com in that sense. It's more about showing the visibility that you have a plan, and that plan can be reviewed at any point in time via the customer, versus what you're doing at the moment, which probably is that this is not visible and they have to kind of guess or chase you down for some idea of what's actually going on. So that's a little bit about the audit, presentation, and the sales strategy. So now let's look at the setup side of things. In here, they can actually have a conversation as well with you. So they can add a comment. That'll send you an email, and then you can reply via the portal to that particular question. I'd probably jump on the phone if a client did that to you. And of course, you can start to put notes down here on the roadmap as well if you want to, and the client can do that or you can do that. So let's look at the behind the scenes side of things. So the first thing that you would want to do is to come into the settings and confirm what your categories are going to be. These are the categories of the solution builder. So that's these areas here. So you want to group things into categories to make it easier for them to digest. That's what the categories are. You then have the types, and so this is the things that you're auditing. Your portal will have a whole bunch of these included already, and really all you need to do is add and delete the ones you don't want, and just ensure that everything you are checking as part of your process is in there for you to tag green, yellow, red. Then you've got the outcome section. So this is giving you the ability to fill in the roadmap section with an outcome, just to try and let them know, hey, this is about communication or stability or whatever it happens to be. And then of course you can change the color. You'll just have the 3 in there, and you can actually pick your green, yellow, red. So if you don't like the color scheme that's come out of the box from the system, then you can change that. So once you've actually confirmed all of that, all you need to do next is go to your solution options and fill in the solution options with the different pricing. This is where you would put the pricing of the different options. Let's say this was actually Sophos. It could be Sophos 1, 2, 3 for advanced threat protection, or it could be Office 365 as an example there. It might be 1 that you want to put. It might be 3. It might be 5. It doesn't really matter. Just put in the base pricing of what you would normally sell as a starting point, so that it speeds up your ability to be actually to do these presentations. So once you've filled in that information for your solution options, this is probably just the one area that takes a little bit of time, probably an hour or 2 just to sort that out, but it's short-term pain for long-term gain. One of the massive bugbears of these systems is they take so long to produce reports. So if you do all of this, you'll be in the driver's seat to do it very quickly moving forward. So once you've done your solution options, you then come back to the settings and you actually tag those solution options in here. And what that means is that every time you do a presentation, it will be templatized with all of that information filled in, because the last thing you want your team to do is have to fill in, if you've got 20 items times 3, 60 boxes every time they actually do a presentation. Even if they're available in a drop-down sense, you don't want to have to go through and painstakingly fill them in. So you want them pre-filled in, so you come in here and add them all, as part of this template and hit the save button, and they'll be ready to go. Once you've done that, you're then ready to do your audit template. So you create an audit template. It could be, the first audit would be everything in that sense. So you'd have all the different items in here that you're doing. This is an example of one that's security focused. But you could have everything you're auditing that you normally want to check for a client as the first one. You could have a security audit, you could have a base audit, whatever you want to do. Save them as templates. Once you've actually done that, you then go through and do your presentation template. A presentation template is essentially enabling you to put that cover information there on your overview page, and each of the pages actually has the ability to have a blurb at the top. So if we have a look at audit, you've got this blurb here, etc. So you can put those blurbs in and they'll all come. And then of course you can templatize the titles of your 3 columns, and you can do the minimum requirements, whatever it happens to be. And you can actually only do in the presentation, I should have mentioned before, is that you can actually do 1 column, 2 columns, or 3 columns. So this is the example where you can actually do those. So this is an option where you've only just got the 1. Our recommendation from a sales perspective and from an MSP experience perspective is definitely to do 3. But if you just want to do 1, then you definitely have that opportunity available to you, and you can mix and match that as it stands. So once you've actually done your audits templates and your presentation templates, you're pretty much ready to go to mount a presentation. So when you do a presentation, you basically go create a presentation. You have to do an audit first before you can create a presentation, because the whole idea is to present the audit findings. Once you've done an audit, you create the presentation, you select the client, select the starting point. Do I want to go from a template? Yes. Do I want to go from which audit? When you select the client, it'll bring up the audits available to you. So it's really easy. Once you've mounted that audit, it'll come through here and you actually have this audit, this presentation to go through. So the first thing to understand is you've got a tab layout here. This is where you add the Microsoft licensing report, devicing report. All you need to do is just add those and just label it. You can add a custom page and do whatever you want. And for these ones, you can move them around and do what you want in terms of the order. With the overview, audit, recommendations, roadmap, etc., they are fixed in their structure because that is the way that you should be presenting to the customer. But you can add different pages and tabs between those. So that's how you would do that. In terms of the overview, that'll come through nicely for you. You've got the audit that'll come through. You can then come in and change this information if you want to, like I said before. So, or you could remove things that you may not want to present. So you bring through this whole list and you go, well, to be honest, today I just want to present 10 out of these 20 things to the customer. That's all I want to do. You can delete them and just present those 10. This is the Microsoft licensing tabs that are showing up here, custom page, devices, and this is where you've got your recommendations. So a couple of points here is that you've got the ability to add a PDF for each of those diagrams. If you don't have anything in there, it just won't show this row under the recommendation, so this will just disappear. This is where you create the options of whether you want to do 1, 2, or 3 columns. By default, it'll be 3. If you want to reduce it, you just untick those and it will change it accordingly. And this is where you go through the actual recommendations itself. So again, these boxes will be filled in. You can tag them as not required and that'll just show up as not required in the box. Once you're ready, you click this button to say it's ready, and once you hit save, that'll start presenting it in the client portal. So anything that is unticked will not be presented in the portal in that sense. So you come through, check it, yes, correct, correct, wrong, I'll change that, correct, 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 wrong, wrong, correct. And so you just go through, change them accordingly to make sure that it makes sense for that particular customer. Once you've gone through all of those, you can then look at the roadmap and start to tag, just confirm which month it is the correct one to present. That this information's been coming through from the audit when you first filled it in, and then again you tick the ones you actually want to show and just make sure you've got the right person assigned to it and the right outcome as well. So once that's done, you're then ready to go to present. So essentially, once an audit's done, it's really fast to actually do these presentations and get them out the door to the customer. No more fussing about with Word documents and titles and pages and trying to squeeze diagrams in, etc. So this is what you do here. This box, this customer edit once you've actually presented something for the customer, they're going to go through and select what they want. And on the back end, this is what it looks like when they've selected something, so you know which of the things that they selected. So when you go back to do that quote, you can refer to this and go, okay, they wanted that. All of that is there, and by locking it off, it means that the customer can't go in there and fiddle with it and change it and confuse you later. So I recommend definitely locking that down. Once you then are ready to send this a quote to somebody, we do recommend, or it could just be when you're presenting. The whole idea is you grab the URL, paste it in there, and that's how you can present to the customer. And it's also how you can actually remind them when you send them the quote. It's always recommended to, when you send the quote, have a section of the email saying, hey, just a reminder, here's the presentation, and put the link to it, and then put your quote, so that they don't conveniently forget that you are that you went through that whole process with them and gave them all of those different options. So essentially, that is the back end, the front end of all the modules, the audit presentation, the sales psychology around it, and of course the setup of the system. So if we go back to the presentation, as a summary, these are your setup tips. Number 1, confirm the types. Number 2, complete your solution options plus link to those types in the settings area. Then complete your audit and presentation templates, and at that point you're ready to go to start to do your first audit and presentation. So that concludes today's training for our vCIO platform. If you require further assistance, we are available at any time to book in with our team to go through that with you and help set up the system. If you need any more advice around what you're actually doing, also reach out. If you've done a presentation and you just want to make sure that it's in the optimal format, happy to give you some guidance and experience sharing on that as well. This concludes today's training. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.